All right, welcome back. So we're starting off with the perspective of the House of Representatives, the Committee on Basic Education and Services. They have not too comfortable with that decision by the Minister of Education on WAEC, the students. So we're going to hear them out this morning. We've got Honorable Julius Iyamber, who is the chairman of that committee. He joins us live this morning. Good morning, Honorable. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning.
So we heard.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, we heard some part of the perspectives out there, how the members feel. So tell us, if you could shed more light on why the House wants the executive to reverse that decision.
Thank you. I think the first thing to note is that we are not talking about school reopening. We are talking about writing the West African Secondary School Certificate Examination. Those who are, and these the numbers, they are less than 1/4 or 1/5 of the total numbers of students registered in senior secondary school. In addition to that, we believe that Nigeria is not the only country involved in this, and we say we are the big brother of Africa, that our foreign policy is centered on Africa, and we try to play a supportive role. And I think we have no evidence so far that there was consultation with the other countries in West Africa. We have no evidence that the ministers or commissioners for education in West Africa met. We have no evidence that even stakeholders in Nigeria were duly consulted before that decision was taken. We also thought that the impact on the parents, on the schools, on the instructions, on WAEC itself, that has already deployed its resources across the country in preparation to write the exam when the signals came from the ministry, these were not put into consideration. So we feel embarrassed that we're giving the impression to the world that since the COVID-19 outbreak, we've been doing nothing to prepare, to respond, and adjust to the new normal, as they say. What is required to write these exams is not that complicated. We are not putting, these are not babies, they are not kids, they are not kindergarten or primary school children. And we wrote to the ministry about 4 weeks ago that if you are planning to reopen schools, these are certain protocols you must take. Basically, the same protocols that the NDDC had put out. We also had an interactive meeting with the Minister of State, who assured us that everything was on course and they would write the exams in a very safe environment. He also announced this at the COVID-19 briefings. And suddenly we got the news from the minister, and we felt it was not well thought out. The decision should be reversed. It is possible to write the exam. The stakeholders are ready. And it's unfortunate that we are now, as a federal government, separating the unity schools, just 104 of them.
Honorable, just before you get to that point, a number of issues that you raised, if you could just pick up on them so you could shed a little more light. Now, you did say that you don't think it's well thought out, no consultations were made. So assuming all of those were made, if they had met with stakeholders, if he has spoken with them before announcing that decision, would that have been okay?
It would have made a big difference because the stakeholders would have put on the table the preparations that they have made to ensure safety. Initially, the idea was for them to come in and be in for revision classes. And we have suggested that they should forget about that. No revision classes. They come from home and write the exam and go back. Everyone has to make some kind of sacrifice to get the country going. We understand and sympathize fully with the position of the minister. But in terms of policy and programs and moving this country forward and not complicating the lives of our young children, it is when you fail WAEC, that with the WASC exam, that you know that life is not stable and it's not a bed of roses. But when you pass it and go ahead to the university or polytechnic, it looks rosy. So We need to talk to the private school owners. They're a chunk of these stakeholders. We need to sit WAEC down and understand their protocols and what arrangements they've made. We need to know why other West African countries are intent on continuing and are ready, like yesterday, to write the WAEC exams. Nigeria should not appear to be the only one in the world that is not ready to recognize and adjust to the new reality that we all face.
All right, I'd like you to listen to the position of the minister as at the time he made that comment, because there were those who had questions too, but let's even listen to it and respond specifically to some of the issues that were raised after this. Take a listen.
Schools under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Education will not reopen on August 4th or any time soon. Our schools will only open when we believe it is safe for our children, and that is when the situation is right, not when incidence of the infection is going up in the nation. Yesterday, we called a meeting of stakeholders who will tell us their situation and what needs to be done in order for it to be safe. While the meeting was going on, WAEC announced that they are starting on the... So let's see who they are going to start with. And I would also like to, at this position, ask those states that have already announced, I appeal to them. I think it is not safe. I feel responsible for all children, not just the children who are in federal government controlled schools. Please, let's save our children from this. You can just take one scenario. One infected child going into a class. Because, this social distancing is just some beautiful theory. When the cameras are there, everybody will be obeying it. When there is no camera, everybody will just be normal, especially children. One child is enough to infect everyone in the class. When they close class, they go to the dormitory. Everybody in the dormitory by tomorrow will probably be. So this is not the right time to open schools. I appeal to the states that have already announced to reconsider it. If we are given the choice, me as Minister of Education, if I'm given the choice, I don't mind Nigeria losing a complete school year than exposing our children to danger. I think their health is more important than the examination they are going to write. And WAEC is a parasite of the Ministry of Education. They cannot determine for the government what it does. I think they should probably change their dates or will do without them.
So, a number of issues that he raised there, predicating his decision on the fact that safety, I don't know how many people can argue against that the figures were going up, and as such, he doesn't think it is safe. And then he spoke about stakeholders. You had said that there was no record of their meeting. So right there, he was talking about they had called a meeting of stakeholders. And while that was going on, WAEC then went ahead and announced it. So in addition to your response to that stakeholder bit, shouldn't the House or the National Assembly be seen to be on the part supporting government in the sense that the impression he's given there is that WAEC is trying to, strong arm us, force us to take a decision, because he says they are a parastatal. You can't determine what we do. So are we getting it right in that regard?
Well, I think certain things have been mixed up here. If you listen to him carefully, he's talking about children in boarding. We are not talking about boarding. He's talking about states that have announced reopening. We are not talking about the reopening of schools at all. We are talking about just the few students in final years, in exit classes that are taking WAEC and leaving the secondary school world completely. Those are the ones we are talking about. And they are not up to 15% of the total number of students. Let me also state that prior to that, we assume there was a synergy in the ministry. It was the ministry that set the date. They announced it that the WAEC exams would take place, not school reopening. The House is not complaining about school reopening. We are talking about those who have already prepared and are ready to write the examination. So when you talk of safety of our children, we agree with the minister. He's right. But when we talk about those who are adults, really, 17, 18, 19, even 20, and we said, look, don't cramp them in the school hall. use all the classrooms, fumigate the buildings, give them face masks, let them have sanitizers, check their temperature before they go in, prepare for them to wash their hands. I'm surprised that there are some states that have not made these arrangements, because all over the world, these are the arrangements that are already being made in schools, you know. But we're not talking about school reopening. We agree fully with the minister, and I appreciate his sentiments. But when it comes to the issue of WAEC, if they were meeting with stakeholders, was WAEC sitting there or not? You know, from his statements, it appears WAEC was not even there. But WAEC is the most important stakeholder in this issue. And they have deployed the resources based on the position of the ministry that the exams would take place.
Well, Honorable, one of the issues that you raised...
There's no data to show.
Okay, just one moment. We'll give you some data shortly, but one of the issues that you also raised is that we're not talking about boarding school, but you would also know that most, if not all, of the unity schools, they have boarding facilities. And some of them come from far to come to school and stay there. So if you are saying that we are not talking about boarding facilities, how do those boarding school students write the WAEC if the minister doesn't take this step?
Well, the unity schools are 104. And you know that is an infinitesimal number of secondary schools in Nigeria. And if they have to come from home to write this, not all of them, yes, some come from far and near, but I'm sure arrangements can be made either by parents or by the schools to keep them. The exam doesn't last for 1 month. I mean, this is not as safe because they are boarding schools, we will no longer write exams. Are we going to say we're going to close schools forever until COVID-19 disappears before we now bring students back to boarding schools to write exams? No boarding schools, we're not talking of them. But those in the final year in those schools are a very small number, and arrangements can be made for them to write the exams.
Well, the logistics of that, Honorable.
Anyway,
okay. Well, just one moment. The logistics of that, you know, is really, you know, few and far between. A number of people are going to have a Herculean time even understanding how it will be possible for boarding school students, 17, 18, 19, as you said, very active minds, to be away from home without being under any authority and sit to write exams. That's one. Then secondly, you will also remember that the minister said that most of the time, this social distancing thing that we're talking about is just for the cameras. And you will also agree that to a large extent, many people do not really observe these things. And he said just one student in one day can, in the class, no matter how few and far between they are in a class, given that now the NDDC and the World Health Organization have said that we cannot rule out the possibility of coronavirus disease being airborne now. How do we champion that? How do we manage that to ensure that, you know, these children don't get exposed when the disease is airborne?
Well, I think there is no final word on whether it is airborne or not. It is droplets, and they've measured the distances that can travel. But that is not the issue. I think for these children, it depends on how the exams are managed. We have already made the case that WAEC should increase the number of invigilators. They should quadruple the number of invigilators. The students come in. They don't rush into the class. You check their temperature. They wash their hands. They give them their face masks and sanitizers and direct them to the desk they will sit on, which is at least 2-3 meters away from the next person. What is so difficult in that? That we're so scared of. It's not rocket science. So for me, I think that arrangements can be made. WAEC can even make arrangements for these students who are far away to write it in schools in their communities. After all, it's exam numbers they are using, and WAEC has digitized their procedures significantly. So for me, I do not think that is the issue. If the current date is not convenient, it is very possible to extend the timetable, to give more time to write this exam, so that the logistics will be resolved. And the solution is to sit down with WAEC and reach some accommodation and common ground and present it to Nigerians and West Africans. We should remember that we're not the only country writing these exams. How did the others make the arrangements? How did they at least accommodate the realities they're living in to ensure that their students are safe and write the exams in a safe environment?
Well, Honorable, the thing is, I know you know that the way countries are handling their COVID-19 cases is peculiar to each country. So they take their decisions based on their peculiarity. Some are reimposing the lockdown, but we haven't. So, but it's the same COVID-19 we're all grappling to tackle. But the thing is, right after that announcement was made by the PTF that those in graduating classes can go back and as such they can write exams such as WAEC, we ran the poll asking parents and students if they thought it was safe for that to happen. And the poll, over 60% of them at that time had said it was not safe for that to happen in that particular poll, which you can see on the screen if you can. And just not long after this, the minister then came up with that decision. So if you're talking about gauging opinion of people, has the House done that amongst parents? Because if you say it's not that easy, those are the views of some of those parents and students who thought they don't think it's safe to do that.
Well, we're in touch with our constituents. Remember that the House of Representatives is the people's house. We represent every constituency in this country. And from what we get is that, yes, they're not prepared for schools to reopen now, but they are anxious to have their final year students write their WAEC exams. And they believe that it is possible to have sufficient social distancing by using all the classrooms that are now vacant because schools are not open. This is not such a difficult thing. We are putting fear before action. And we're, in fact, trying to make it look like we're going to cramp all these children in one room and tell them to write these exams. I think we should be proactive. We should be creative and innovative and show that we're not going to give in. If this country can say, okay, churches can reopen, mosques can reopen, markets can work, you can have limited malls, shopping malls are working. Why are we afraid to have 20 students or 50 students sit in about 8 classrooms, write WAEC exams? I mean, why we're complicating and complexifying a very simple, straightforward matter. But the exam body itself, I believe, from our interaction, they said, look, we have our papers ready. We're ready to make all the necessary adjustments you need. We're ready to shift the time to give sufficient room for Nigeria to write its own exam, even if different from the others. We can delay that of Nigeria. We should accommodate this. We know this is a very difficult environment, but then the safety protocols are there. And if we take it seriously, there is no reason why we cannot accommodate this and have these children write their examinations.
So is it that the ministry is saying that they will not extend and allow WAEC to make that specific provision for Nigerians if they feel that it's not safe? Because after all, are we supposed to allow WAEC kick us around? They have to comply with what the member states want.
And we're a democracy. There are 5 members, 4 say yes, 1 say no. So if you are going along those lines, you will not have the kind of result you're thinking about. But what I think is that should be the next level of the conversation with WAEC. To say, all right, we need more time in Nigeria. Well, look at your timetable. How do you accommodate us so that we send out people? What I want to see is not commissioners coming out to say, oh, we will not write the exams. That's embarrassing, even for their own governments. What I expect them to see is to say, look, you, federal ministry, set the policy, send out inspectors as usual. We as state governments, as local governments, will make sure that schools are fumigated, the chairs are properly distanced, and we have... So how many minutes does it take to produce face masks? If you go to Abad, they'll make you 1 million in 2 days. Sanitizers are now being produced everywhere in this country, and the price has come down significantly. How much do you have to check the temperature gun? Now, it's cheap. So for me, I still do not see what is so complicated in this. Every secondary school has more than 20 classrooms. There is nobody in these classrooms. The number of persons writing the WAEC, you occupy maybe 2 or 3. Now you spread them in 20 classrooms to write the exams. How is it not complying with COVID protocols, the most stringent you can think of? So I think the next line of conversation, really, and the House is inviting the minister and WAEC for an interactive session on Thursday to say, where do we go from here? What are the options? Are we going to say until the World Health Organization says we have a vaccine and it is available to everybody before we can say let the exit class go and write their exams. Be rest assured, we know that schools should not reopen because the crowd will be very dangerous. But the exiting class can write their exams.
Okay, because
I don't work in this country, and I know how many people write these things.
okay, because the thing is, I mean, when you say it's a democracy and those countries and Nigeria, but if you put together all those countries and compare to Nigeria's population, then we're not just a member, as it were. But the thing, Honorable, when you say...
You will be rationalizing the behavior of America in the world.
Well, it's a democracy. If you could pull your weight around, why not? I mean, that's what it's for the benefit of your people. But the thing is, now that you say, because I was going to ask if the committee had reached out to the ministry or minister, but now that you say they're coming up on Thursday, shouldn't you have done that before coming up with your position that no, you don't agree with that position? Shouldn't you have heard them out first before now?
Before. We did, I told you we had sent a letter when we had the initial discussions about school reopening, that it may not be safe, but we believe before you do that, take all stakeholders into consideration and make sure that all the COVID protocols for safety are taken into consideration. We did that. And we also invited the minister himself. He was represented by the Minister of State, who sat with the committee in the House and gave us the assurances. In fact, he was so eloquent, he was so clear in his discussions that we commended him and assured him of our cooperation and collaboration to ensure that things work out very well. So we sat down and were waiting that this would happen. We in turn were not consulted that to say we have changed our position. We heard it in the news just like you did, I'm sure. And in our first immediate reaction to that is that this is not right. We do not agree with the evidence we have and with what we know and with what we are getting from our constituents and communities. It is possible. But as a follow-up, we issued a statement on our own position, but also wrote to the ministry to say, let's have an interactive session. Maybe there's some information you have that we do not have. Let's put it on the table, and then we can all be on the same page. We work in harmony with the ministry. The minister is a very good person. He's a personal friend. The Minister of State was a member of the House of Representatives. The dialogue process between the ministry and the committee is very open, clear, and cordial.
Because I was just, I thought that meeting held before his announcement. So I thought, had there been another of such meeting after his announcements, before your position, and then asking him to come up on Thursday? No,
there was no other meeting between us since after the initial meeting with the Minister of State. But we've put in a letter, we've given enough time now to put it on Thursday so that we can have this interactive conversation. And if the conclusion is that it is not safe to do it and we see reason, why not? We don't have any special sake that is secret on this matter. We just believe that as representatives of the people, and looking at the implications for us as a country, for our foreign policy, for the image of Nigeria, for the future of these kids, and for the burden it will place on WAEC itself, and the cost of postponement and doing it together next year, we should take a second look at it and reach some understanding.
Some listening to you right now will think, which one is the House of Representatives Committee on Basic Education and Services prioritizing, the safety of our children or the image of the country? But I'm sure you are aware that some school children in Ghana and teachers, about more than 50 of them actually, were said to have tested positive to COVID-19 after they opened schools. So that also raises the question, if it so happens that we open schools and some of these things occur and students, we have increased figures of COVID-19 in schools just because they reopened. What happens? Do you think we have enough already? Our health system is pressured. Do you think we have enough to contend with that right now?
I agree with you. And I said this before, and I would like to repeat it for clarity. The House Committee on Basic Education is not clamoring for the reopening of schools. Ghana reopened too early, and they had that spike. we are talking about the exit classes, only those in SS3 who are writing WAEC examination. And they are a very small percentage, not even up to 10% of the total number of students in SS, JSS or SS1 and 2. It's only those in SS3 who are writing the final exit exams. Because if they don't write that exam, they are not qualified to even talk about JAMB or going to polytechnics or universities. They have to wait a whole year at home. And we're saying, how do we make it safe for them? Of course, the issue of the image of Nigeria, the safety of our children, and writing the exam, they are all intertwined. There is no difference as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Honorable, we'll look forward to that meeting on Thursday and hope that good reasons, get the better at the end of the day. We do thank you for your thoughts and hope that all this is sorted. We're back in a moment, everyone.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
All right, thank you too. So there you go. All eyes on NDDC. As a matter of fact, it's from one thing to the other. So if they pulled out all those documents, requesting to go back and come back to the House committee to defend their budget, which they couldn't successfully do there, as you heard. And then it raises more questions. As a matter of fact, we also did reach out to the NDDC, even their agents as well, to have them on the program. But we woke up this morning to find out that they said they can't be on the program. So that seems to be, who knows, a trajectory these days. But we're going ahead anyway. The show must go on, as they say. And speaking about fact, we do have Mr. Kolawole Johnson here with us. He is the direct head, Directorate of Research, Strategy and Program of the Act for Positive Transformation Initiative, APTI. Good morning, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for joining us today. Well, the NDDC can't join up today, but you have been speaking about some of the findings, the documents that you do have on the commission about certain things that have been going on. And we do know, was it upon some of your findings? Because there are reports indicating that the House also had to make reference to some of those documents alleging fraud. Are those the premise upon which you've been making your comments lately?
Yeah, thank you, Chimbali, and good morning. Incidentally, your station played a major role in this whole saga, and I think you deserve all the kudos. We started mining documents from NDDC since last year, March, after the election. In fact, immediately after the election, a few days after the election. Some games were played then, so we decided to sit back and start watching. And so we've been collecting documents for over 1 year before we started talking. And what led to the talking was simply because, one, the documents and the petitions we submitted to the National Assembly were not attended to. Oh, of course, that's my own assumption, because I felt if they were attended to, for example, we wrote one in January this year, and we stated some few things that we saw. And if the National Assembly had taken up the gauntlet in good time, all the graft, the malfeasance we saw between February and May would not have happened. Because as at that time, it was a child's play. In fact, comparatively, it was nothing. But between February and May ending, I mean, in fact, even a part of June, it's been a hell. The place has been looted dry. I can say that with all boldness, because we have documents to back that up. In April, after we watched Dr. Cairo write on your station making some claims that we knew were not correct, the following day, less than 12 hours, or say less than 24 hours after, we released a statement with the documents to back that up. And we submitted quite a number of them to National Assembly, quite a number of them, to NAS. We still have more to submit. And I think the allegations we raised at the beginning, I want to believe, form the body of the motion that was raised at both the floor of House of Rep and the Senate, because we alleged in the first petition we wrote, in April, then not the other ones, that the Commission must have squandered between 44 and 49 billion naira. Perhaps they did their investigation and brought it down to 40 billion naira. But we again moved forward to say it is not even about 44 or 49 billion. It has gone beyond that. The very first allegation we made, the commission came out to say they've only spent 22 billion naira, that they haven't spent anything near 40 billion naira. But we insisted because we had the document before we started talking. And later on, when they came out to publish their expenses to the, or their expenditure rather, on the pages of newspaper, I called it then deceptive transparency, because I knew that they only declared about 33 billion, yes. And I knew that the spendings were over 80 billion naira. And today, I'd like to say that the CBN record submitted to the Senate, they read it out on the day of the hearing, was 92 billion naira that have been spent in just a short while. And when we mention, when they keep talking about what they have spent, they leave out tax. And I say, so where is that tax coming from? For example, if I am awarded a contract of 100 million naira, for example, tax is inclusive. So you can't say because what gets to my account is, say, 93 billion naira, that you will say the contract I was awarded is 93 billion naira. It was 100 million naira. So it was a 100 million naira contract. But after tax, I get some amount in my purse. So the amount we are looking at is actually 92 billion naira. We dropped that again this morning for the public. So basically, I think our agitations, our work is paying off now. Nigerians are talking about it, and people have actually taken over from us. Even the process of investigation, people are doing that already. I'll give you an example. After the show we had on Sunday night, the entire Twitter went agog, and my eyes were open to something. I was shocked. Remember, on that program, I mentioned 4 companies that that was involved in that contract scam with the commission. When they came here to say they have not awarded any contract, they have actually awarded contract and they have made some payment. Now, after we made some noise about it, what they did was to discontinue 2 of the companies, but they continue with the 2 of them, and the 2 of them that got further payments were Osmoserve and AHR Global. Now, after the program on Sunday, I saw a tweet of someone giving us the dossier, the CAC document of AHR Global, and we saw something very, very interesting. Peter Rebel is a director in AHR. He is also a major, in fact, the owner of Roadmap. So that means the 2 companies that handle the COVID-19 contract belong to the same person. And I want to say on this program this morning expressly that the individual involved has a link with the Minister of the Niger Delta affairs. And I'm challenging the security agencies, the anti-corruption agencies, to probe the account of Roadmap Nigeria Limited and the account of the Minister of Niger Delta affairs. Again, we have dropped that bombshell. Thank you.
All right. Just before, these names, we'll have to get some clarity about them. But you said that, you were mining documents, mining information about the NDDC and the activities in that commission for a year before any announcement was made by anybody, which you had to contravene with your own documents. The Niger Delta Development Commission started work in 2000. This is 2020, 20-year-old organization. From your findings, how far back does this fraud date?
Started in year 2000, the same year the commission was established. But there's a limit to what we can get out. We have been involved in agitation for a better Niger Delta region. We have criticized oil companies, we have criticized stakeholders, we have criticized the commission for a number of years. But it got to a time that we decided to change strategy. Don't leave the thing at just criticizing. Don't leave the thing at just raising some allegations or just making some noise. So we decided to sit down and change our approach to issue. So we said, okay, let's get something done. Sit down, establish cases that can be proven both in the public and in the law court. So it took us a lot of time to get that done. And it took a lot of processes, confirmation upon confirmation. I don't want to go to prison. So it was after we got this definite assurance that a lot of things ongoing there. Scam. If 100 billion naira is, in fact, they said they got 305 billion last year. Go and check in the Niger Delta in the last 1 year. If you will see anything, any impact near 20 billion naira, I put that fact. I doubt, in fact, I doubt if you will see that at all in the last 1 year.
Okay,
Now,
you know,
corruption in that place before, you know, the place has been a cesspool of corruption from inception. I have said it before. When
yeah, but Mr.
folks
Johnson,
want to contest, or even if
Mr. Johnson, apologies. You know, this definitely will raise a lot of concerns for anyone who's listening, who has seen and heard and read all these arguments going back and forth. But how could all of these have been going on? For instance, the documents that you have you reached out to the anti-graft agencies? Because questions are, could all of this have been happening under their noses and then they look the other way?
one, the anti-graft agencies, they act based on information. A lot of times, I just discovered lately, because I've also been sitting on this side of the divide, also blaming them, criticizing them. But lately, I discovered that they need our support. One, they need our support to provide information. Two, at times alert them. Because if an agency is running, you may not expect them to just barge in there one day and say, okay, open your books. It rarely happens. So when they get information, they move to action. And I discovered that before now, you see some modus operandi that put them in trouble a lot of times. Before they dig enough, they start making making noise in the public, and at the end of the day, they don't have fact to prove their case in the law court. But I'm sure that on this case, they are working hard. I can say that of anti-corruption agencies, and I've submitted, some few stuffs, and I'm sure that in a very short while, you will start seeing action from them. But by my understanding, they are doing a lot of investigation. If we have submitted things, for example, they need to confirm, they need to ask questions and all of that. So when they get to the stage where they need to come out, I'm sure they will come out. And don't forget that this issue has become one of public interest. It is not possible for anybody to sweep it under the carpet. And we have been watching everyone involved very keenly.
So speak to us from that perspective then. Just in addition to what you're about to say, did you find, from your findings, is it an individual just going rogue, or is this a coordinated activity of fraud?
Okay. Before 2019 August, I believe that there was no established cabal. Everyone sent to that place. Once they get there, their eyes just open to the fact that in this place, you just come there to pick money on the floor. So the brazen looting start. Now, but between August and now, I can say, the Minister of Niger Delta has been the singular individual running that place. He gives orders. He has abandoned the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, which he should supervise, which he should superintend over. Go and ask how many times he has been to his office. Go and ask if there's any policy at all in the Ministry of Niger Delta, if they are doing anything at all. He sits and runs NDDC from his guest house and his house. We have made this allegation before. So the fact is that lately it has been one individual running the place. And it is what he says that is law. Whoever does, in fact, nobody can even question him. So the fact is that my anger is that, is it that the presidency are not getting security reports on these activities? So those, we have had this anger before now, that all of these things are going on, and we believe that the president should be getting security report every single day about these activities, especially when it involves areas that are highly volatile. So I can say to you and confirm to you that between August and now, when the minister assumed office, don't forget that as soon as he assumed office as a minister, The following day, less than 24 hours after, he wrote to the chief of staff to take over the job of, to take over the job of the president in supervising NDDC. And few weeks after, the chief of staff replied him and gave the ministry the power. But the minister keeps saying that the chief of staff did not give the ministry the power, that he gave him the power to supervise over the ministry. Over NDDC. So basically, the ministry does not superintend over the commission. It is the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. Now, going back to what I was saying, we've been watching everyone involved in this very keenly. I'll give you one typical example. After we raised allegations, write petitions, and the National Assembly decided to investigate the issue, we knew, of course, we have watched the antecedents of both NAS and these people. We know that a lot of times they settle things on the ground and they call it political affairs. But because we're watching very keenly, when the commission wrote a letter to the National Assembly for virement, apparently for the same figure that is missing or that they have squandered, we were in fact, less than 2 or 3 days after, we got the letter and we cried out to Nigerians that these people are about settling. And of course, from that moment, they started their fight. Of course, we withdrew and let them finish themselves. But basically, we are watching everyone involved. And this is a very strong statement to those who are involved in this now. We have heard lately of some meetings. We have heard of 5 jobs meant for payment. We have heard of we have heard of some few things ongoing. If anyone happened, we will not hesitate to mention names in specific, amount, and those who are involved.
Mr. Johnson, you referenced the other time that, perhaps the presidency isn't aware of what is happening, but of course, you are aware, of course, that there are some efforts to audit, the books of the NDDC, and there have been exchange of leadership, the movement of people from one place to another. Are you saying that the audit plan of the NDDC is not, going anywhere?
Again, regrettably, I think what we have now is not forensic audit. What we have now is forensic looting. I keep withholding information. I don't want to say much. But if I have any of them sit with me, they put themselves in trouble. Each time I raise small allegation, they argue, we release more. Let me give you what is going on there right now regarding the forensic audit. On October 25, the minister wrote to the president and gave the plan for the forensic audit. He gave 6 months to start and finish the audit. That was the day he recommended 3 individuals for appointment as IMC members for the board to be suspended, simply because there will be a forensic exercise that will last for 6 months, according to him, his own word, in his own letter to the president. So the president approved this. Now, the IMC came in 4 days after, October 29th. And between that October 29 and February, nothing was done on forensic audit. They advertised for the lead consultant on the forensic audit around February, and they picked a lead consultant. The lead consultant has only been paid till date 45 million naira and some small change for his logistics, which in itself is fraud because the memo that came from FEC, of course, maybe we'll just discuss that later, but between that February and May, that the National Assembly decided to investigate the affairs, nothing was done again on the forensic audit. They did not, I repeat, procure forensic auditors all through. So 6 months that the minister said that they would do forensic, practically nothing was done on the forensic because they did not procure forensic auditors. Now, in May, towards the end of May, they hurriedly rushed, and they wrote a letter to BPP asking for waiver to procure auditors. And the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs single-handedly handpicked the auditors, the forensic auditors, for this process. I ask for the minister who has nominated an MD in that same place before, for the minister who has nominated members of directors or of the board of the commission before, How do you think he will do that will have good forensic audit done by those he unpicked? The solution is simple. Let the president appoint or advertise and appoint independent auditors to audit everybody. Because we keep shouting forensic audit, forensic audit. What are the things ongoing right now? So if the president single or appoint forensic auditors to audit that place, the hunter now will become the hunted. I can assure you. So many of the things they are doing now, shenanigan. So for me, nobody will go back to the last 20 years again to audit anything. We have only this chance to get it right, so that every single person that has been involved in the looting of the resources of the Niger Delta people can be apprehended and prosecuted and brought to book.
From what you've seen,
from what you've seen,
I mean, there's been several comments from them, denials. For instance, the minister has said that, look, he didn't approve some of this contract because a lot of those contracts were below the threshold of what the minister can approve. And then they've also said that, look, they only approved 18 billion naira for contractual claims and several things. But again, they were not here to come and speak to all of those, as we wanted to just find out from them directly. But from what you've seen now, even if this current IMC or the minister were to leave the place, do we have enough institution? Is it in place to ensure that these kind of items which you found, even if you bring fresh people there, will they still happen? Can they still happen as the system is presently constituted?
Well, I will try to answer this technically. First, you need strong institutions to build any nation. You cannot have weak institutions and you want to build nations. It's hardly done. Then number two, you don't need a crowd to change a nation, whether you have strong institutions or not. You only need few noble men in power. I'll give you one example. INEC, you know what it has been before the former chairman came into the office, Professor Jega. And of course, he made his mark, and the commission was drastically changed. The perception was changing because of his work. So, do we have the required system in place in the commission right now, that is the NDDC, to bring about a foolproof system where the money of the people will work for them? I may want to say no. But if they appoint fresh persons, can we get it right? Yes. How? First, the budgeting process must be changed completely. It must start from needs assessment. You don't sit down in your office and prepare a budget based on your greed as against the need of the people. So the moment we can take the master plan for the Niger Delta and put in place proper system for needs assessment per time, so that you know the long time, the short time, and the immediate things that you need. And you can prepare your budget accordingly based on specific needs, line items, the zero budgeting style. And the National Assembly also can also do its thorough job of oversight. I repeat, oversight. Because you cannot also separate NAS from what has been going on there over the years. They have had a committee over the years. Okay. So if they have done the proper oversight, is it that they were not seeing the fraud ongoing there?
Do you have documents from NAS members as well?
Forget his own allegation. I have. He made mention that billions were paid out for NGOs in one single day, even though we have traced that day, we did not see any payment for NGO. I believe there will be some elements of truth in that.
Just hang on a minute.
What happened to those NGOs?
We'll come back to this in just a moment, for a couple of more minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's our concluding moments now with Mr. Johnson. You know, the minister had, there are several comments, one of which he says, look, these attacks are coming against him because of the forensic audit that is about to go on. Any truth in what he said there?
Then let's put that side by side with facts and figures. And I can tell you that that is a blatant lie. Of course, you expect them to find something to hang on to, and that is what you've seen. I've given you the fact that in his own letter that I wrote to the president, he said they will finish forensic in 6 months. And 6 months after, they've done nothing. In fact, 6 months after, they've not procured forensic auditors. You can check this fact with the BPP. Of course, there are some records they can't change again now. Let them try it. We'll confront them. So basically,
what about,
he's just trying to hang on to something. Number one. Number two.
Okay.
Yeah, number two. I think I want to support what Prof. 8 billion naira embezzlement case with the AFCC to come supervise NDDC. And I ask, does the president like the Niger Delta at all? If he does, I don't think he will do that. And if he does, they should be submitting report to the president every quarter. So have they submitted any report to the president? By law, that should be the rule. And if they have submitted, what are the things involved? Has he queried or questioned anything? Number three, the law setting up NDDC did not even give room for such arbitrary delegation of power. Go check the law. It is different from the NNPC law that creates alternate chairman for the board or for each supervision. It is different from several other agencies created. In the case of NDDC, it was put specifically under the president. And I did a little of administrative law in school. And I know that such are not what you just, threw away like that. So I think as long as I know that the president means well, he needs to pay more attention to what is going on there now. Now,
what about,
remember when we started agitation, we told people that basically our anger is this, that after COVID, we will not have much money again. There's a need to save what we have left now so that we can have money to spend on infrastructure after COVID.
When you say this sleaze fraud has gone on for a long time, they've also had members in the National Assembly who have oversighted this NDDC for a long time. And they also culpable. In fact, are they not the ones coordinating some of these attacks?
Now, I have said in specific that the NAS also has blames in the issue on ground now. And they can't separate themselves because they've been on oversight function in that place since the beginning. So what have they done? Were they not seeing all of these sleaze ongoing?
Did you find any documents concerning any one of them?
Are they the one coordinating?
Did you find any documents concerning any member?
Attacks? You said?
Did you find any documents linking any member of the National Assembly who have supervised this NDDC for a while?
The minute we find, we'll bring it out. And I'm begging the NDDC, they should please not cover up. There's no political affair. If they have document, bring it out for us. We will take over the battle. In fact, don't just bother, give it to us. And let's do the fighting for you.
Okay. All right. So we'll see what happens with all of this. We do thank you for your time and your thoughts and for talking to us today. Well, so there you go. Forensic audit support is going to happen. Let's move on now and get Alfred Kemapabo of the Secretary General of IYC. What's going on with this NDDC, the back and forth? How do they get past all of this and bring actual development and allow this agency and ministry achieve the purpose for which it was set up? Thank you for coming on, Mr. Kemapabo, today on the program. So this is not new to you. You heard all of this previously. What is your thinking just listening to all of this going back and forth?
Firstly, for us over here in the Niger Delta, especially to critical minds, this whole thing is a bunch of shame to all of us. We're not proud of it at all. But let us also tell you that the federal government cannot excuse herself from this shame that is put on the people of the Niger Delta. Every time we come on national TV and we come to speak about the need for the development of the Niger Delta, and it now looks like when the opportunity is given to us, this is what we can do. This is just all what we can do. But that's not true. Firstly, the appointees into the NDDC are responsibilities of the president to appoint. So it's the president and the presidency that has appointed people with this amount of incapacity into the board. Secondly, let me further state this. First, the Interim Management Committee that is superintending over the NDDC is not even known to the laws establishing the NDDC. So we need to begin to ask, how did the President and the Presidency come about superintending over the NDDC with an Interim Management Board when the laws establishing the NDDC clearly provides for an established board? This whole thing started in this President Buhari's administration, you know, when Wani Bim Seminary was almost a sole administrator in NDDC. So you cannot take away the fact that the corruption starts from the presidency and extends to her proxies that she uses in the Niger Delta. Because number one, you now begin to ask that why would any president or any presidency deploy an interim management committee that is not known to law and substitute that interim and substitute an established board, a board that can be established over it. Now, don't forget that I was in your studio and we discussed how a board, members into the board of NDDC had been nominated and cleared by the Senate, but there were teething problems of the inappropriate positioning of the board members, and all we expected for them to do was to clear them or appropriately position them and clear them. But they were bent on forcing on us an interim management committee. In other words, respectfully, but this is true, as if they wanted to deploy their puppets over us so that they can continue to siphon money from the Niger Delta Development Commission to areas that are not of the interest of the Niger Delta people. So that is just what has happened. As much as it is shame, it's a bigger shame to the president and the presidency who has gone about these duties unlawfully. Secondly, let me also tell you, like the other speaker said, the laws establishing the Niger Delta Development Commission does not say that it has to be supervised by the Ministry of Niger Delta. After all, the Ministry of Niger Delta was established far after the Niger Delta Development Commission was also established. The Niger Delta Development Commission was established as an interventionist agency to be supervised directly from the presidency and not under any ministry. Go into the fiscal analysis of it. I came in your studio and I told you, I said, the budget of the Ministry of the Niger Delta is just about 24 billion naira, but the budget of the Niger Delta Development Commission is about 100 billion naira. Where on earth do you see the mandating of a 24 tons to tow about 100 tons? It doesn't happen anywhere. It is an orchestrated plan by the presidency to blackmail all of us, as if in the Niger Delta, we don't have competent hands and we cannot run our institutions, as if all of us are criminals and we don't care about our institutions. It is not true. Don't forget that we gave up lives, we gave up properties. People died in their numbers.
Let me come and ask you.
Niger Delta is
okay, just hang on a minute. Now, well, the thing is, look, there will always be different perspective about some of the things that are going on, but facts will be facts. Concerning the forensic audits, I mean, at some point, I heard Mr. Johnson say, no audit is going on, well, some audit is going on. So how should they approach this forensic audit? Because facts that emerge or documents or figures that emerge from there, who knows, can it be controverted? How should we proceed with this forensic audit so that whoever has questions to answer be made to answer those questions? Or we'll unearth them first.
Chamberlain, I was in your studio, if you can recall. I told you that there is no forensic audit that will take place in that Niger Delta Development Commission that is local, that will see the light of the day. I had also recommended months back in that studio that if they really want to take on a forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission, they should contract it to the big five, the KPMGs, the Goldman Sachs, and the others. They should be foreign forensic auditors. I had also told you, not like I'm saying it now, in your studio, that the forensic audit, if allowed to be supervised from the Ministry of Niger Delta and our proxies and the related people from within us, it will be another round of scam. I told you. So answering that question, I will only go back to what I had said to you in your studio and on Channels Television, that the forensic auditing of the NDDC should be outsourced to a foreign and reputable forensic firm. That does not mean it will come out 100% because they also have their flaws, but at least they will be more accountable than these local proxies who are contracted forensic audits to further perpetuate forensic corruption.
Well, I guess maybe the presidency may have gone ahead of you on that one, because from reports that we heard since November of last year, they are talking to some of these auditing firms that you referenced. Well, the question that I'd like to ask you is that, you know, the NDDC, since 2000, when it started, and of course the law stipulates that the member states, the 9 member states, should rotate the chairmanship. And since that time until now, with all kinds of things, all kinds of reports have gone back and forth about sleaze in the Niger Delta. For you and the IYC, how far back does this date? We've heard Mr. Johnson's perspective on that, picking documents here and there, but for you, how far back does that sleaze go?
You see, we have said that one of the biggest problems of the NDDC is the over-politicization of the NDDC. The NDDC has always been a tool for political funding. Any person who wants to be governor, you lash on the NDDC. Any person who wants to conduct the expropriation of our funds to the disadvantage of the region is the NDDC. So it's as far back as it's even been created. But you see, its root stems from the corruption in the Nigerian state. But that is not the point. The point is that we can get it right. And so that is why we requested that the presidency should deploy enough time and enough will from the presidency to appoint people of reputable character, possibly people from the extraction of the pool of people who fought for the emancipation of the Niger Delta, the development of the Niger Delta, some of whom even gave up their lives for the creation of the Niger Delta and their time. Some of these people who fought for this creation are still alive. Fetch it from their pool. Also fetch from the professional pool of people from the Niger Delta. Let me tell you this. The federal government at every point in time is technically and tactically undermining the people of the Niger Delta. It is only in the conversation concerning the Niger Delta that the federal government only engages either old people who have their relevance in their old age or only militants. Who told you that here in the Niger Delta, we don't have our graduates from the Oxbridges, the Harvards, the LSEs, the Manchesters, the John Hopkins, and the best of the schools, the Unilags, the University of Ibadan, and the University of Calabar? Who told you we don't have them in the Niger Delta? But at every point in time that the case in the Niger Delta comes out, the federal government is always good at engaging militants or people who may not do these jobs. The federal government is always concentrating on, when it comes to the issues of the Niger Delta, they always want to have chariots lead horses in the Niger Delta. This is not just peculiar to the NDDC. Look at what is happening in the Amnesty Office. The Amnesty Office too, the presidency will always deploy people who have incapacity, who have no knowledge of the operations of the Niger Delta, who have no knowledge of the struggles of the Niger Delta, who have no touch with our people, either because they were their classmates in the Nigerian Defense Academy, or they were their tutors in Kuru or wherever. That is what they usually do. Look at what is happening even in the presidency has deployed acting people of northern extraction to superintend over it.
Let me ask you this, because, pardon me, if I could, quote or paraphrase Senator Abe at some point, I think I remember him saying on the floor of the Senate that in this country, if you're not violent or be forceful about saying or carrying out certain things, that you will not be listened to. And he thought that that is something that needs to be corrected in this country, that those who seem to be gentle, going about things in that way, may not necessarily get to be heard. So to that extent, perhaps to say it's not just that it's something that's going on in the Niger Delta. He was talking largely about what he see or has seen happen in the country, but specifically about those who have been appointed to head those positions. They're Niger Deltans. So the president, what more can the government do year on year? I mean, one administration to the other. Isn't it time, you think, that the people of the region, if they find out some appointments have been made and those people are not suitable to be in those positions, they need to change their strategy and let the authorities know that certain persons don't or are not qualified, or they're not happy with their appointment on those people, even though, look, they'll always consider political considerations, as it were.
I completely agree with you. Like in this particular case we're talking about, we objected the superintending of the Niger Delta Development Commission by an interim management committee that is not known to law. So what we are even saying is that they are not doing due diligence with respect to the appointment of the people in terms of content of character and qualification when they are deploying them to superintend over the Niger Delta. But I dare to say, because of the impunity as expressed over the years by the federal government to make all of us look like we are criminals, they have graduated from due diligently appointing people to even abusing the institution. That's what I'm saying. The Interim Management Committee superintending over the Niger Delta Development Commission is not known to law, and it is an aberration that you situate it under the Ministry of Niger Delta to supervise. The Ministry
Just
of
one
Niger
moment,
Delta
if I
is
can
not
quickly
created-
just line up something. Chamberlain asked the question, the people that have been appointed over the years are Niger Deltans. Shouldn't they see it as something that they need to do for themselves, for their region, irrespective of whether or not the president appointed them, whichever president over the years?
That is what I'm saying. That the people that have been appointed by the presidency, due diligence was not made. They were appointed most times not to develop the Niger Delta, but as proxies of the presidency. So the president should go back and pick out people based on capacity. Let me ask you a question. Are we having this kind of conversation with respect to the appointment into the Northeast Development Commission? Does it mean that everybody that comes from the Northeast are sent? So when it comes to those kind of interventionist agencies, they take their time. Let me also ask you, the country we say the president is the Minister of Petroleum. They only appoint Minister of State for Petroleum. So when it comes to the Niger Delta, that is situated by law to be superintended over the president. Why is he outsourcing it to the Ministry of Niger Delta? One of such presidential...
We need to go, actually. We're out of time. Apologies on that. But we'll keep the invitation open for the Ministry of the Niger Delta to have their say on this particular matter, as well as relevant other persons as it may apply in whatever circumstance. So that is that segment. We're back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, this comment comes from Anthony Chuba, who is talking about WAEC. He thinks that in Nigeria, it's good to plan and create logistics on paper. But when it comes to action, people veer off the plans. WAEC needs to plan this whole stuff with federal government so that we don't blame ourselves. 70% of students will not comply with the rules of distancing.
Valodo says, given the students can write their WAEC exams with all the necessary NDDC protocols, where do they transition to if we are not ready to reopen schools as tertiary institutions? So why write WAEC? Well, that's one opinion.
Well, Comrade Edwin says, coronavirus is a global challenge. If Gambia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia are ready to write WASC, why is Nigeria not ready?
Well, Tokumba Ajibala says, government needs to be proactive when it comes to matters like this. Unity schools are owned by governments, among others. The boarding students can write exams in schools close to their houses. Give them centers like jam doors. This is easily achievable.
Another one said somewhere else that, look, why can't we just do it, make it online examination? Anyway, that's another matter out there. Charles Bankole says certificate classes should be allowed to write their final exams. There are few in each school. All the available classes could be employed during the exams. These kids should not be demoralized.
And okay, Ido says the problem with government is that all the federal government colleges are operating a hostile system, hence making it difficult for them. They don't want to spend. At least if only SS3 students are in school, there'll be enough space for them to use.
Now says it's simple. We're in a pandemic. Why are making over $1 billion? I don't understand it. Why can't it be an online examination now? Please get ingenious. Okay, so there you go. That's the show today. Thank you for those comments. Please keep them coming in as well. We appreciate all of them. We'll see you tomorrow again here. I'm Chamberlain. So
have a wonderful day and please do keep safe. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Thank you so much for watching. Please be responsible and Yourself. Bye-bye.